This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1009, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Paris, France, our very own Tyler Huckabee.
Bonjour, everyone.
And from Austin, Texas, author, speaker, podcaster, Jamie Ivey.
Hey, guys.
This is take two. This is take two, a little behind the scenes, because a little tech issue on my side. But you know what? Even that's not going to get me down. I'm in a great mood. It's that time of year. I'm just, whatever. We're going to have a great show.
Can't crush your spirit.
Yeah. And I had done this whole rant about why we're all feeling good. And I comically asked Tyler in the last take what season it was in Paris, because I only keep up with the American seasons because there's so much happening in the world right now. Right. But all that to say, people can, it's lost to the archives, but there's lots of jokes about how life just feels good this time of year for some reason.
Yeah.
A lot of booted feet on the streets, a lot of beverages in hands.
It sounds like a new song. Get your booted feet on the streets.
You're talking about like good autumn vibes. Like everyone just feels a little bit. Yeah. Everyone's just like a little bit more like summer was getting a little old. It was getting hot. All the movies that we wanted to see in the summer had come out.
We saw
and now we're ready for like fall is here. Fall's back.
It's a great feel when there's somewhere off in the distance. There's a fire going somewhere.
Yes.
I do not understand the things you're talking about, because our version of fall here in Florida is it's just not hot. We don't it doesn't get cold. Like our winter is your fall. Right. So I'm a few months away from smelling the crisp fires or whatever like that. But right now I can walk my dog and I don't sweat. It's lovely. So,
But even in Austin, I mean, I told you guys it's going to be 93 today, but in the morning it's a little crisp in the air. If I had to list top 5 things I love in life, at the top, well, somewhere in the middle is going to be a fire in the fireplace. I love a fire in the fireplace. And so at our house, I mean, we're going to put a fire on with the AC running in the fall, because I love the way it makes me feel. It makes me happy.
Jamie, let me ask you this, because I'm a big fire in the fireplace type of cat too. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, are you a gas fire that you just turn the switch on, or are you wood? Because I'm all about the firewood.
We're working for that fire. We're working. Yeah. You have to work for it at our house. Yep.
Part of the fun.
Thing. Yep.
Yes. Yep. We have natural wood fires, and there's just nothing like it. No,
I agree. Oh, I love it so much.
There's an element of danger. I can't tell you how many times a flaming hot ember has just bounced out right onto the carpet. And I like the thrill of the indoor fire. I like that. It feels incredibly unsafe. It's just a little thrills of the evening. You got Monday Night Football on, and at any moment, a live ember could pop right out and it's on your toes. It's just part of the season.
But you have the shade thing, don't you? I mean, come on,
no
Jesse,
shade
right?
thing. I have a deep deep fireplace.
Okay,
it just goes back in there.
Wow.
Like the Pilgrims had, or
a
whatever.
hole in the wall. Yep.
Yes.
Oh wow. See, not at the Ivies, because I'm like anxious and worst case scenario type girl. So if you don't put the shield back up, I'm gonna let you know. So the shield stays up. No one's gonna catch fire on my watch.
Jamie, let me tell you the thrill of the no shield. Okay, it is. You feel alive. Okay, you feel that like I said, at any moment you're stomping out a fire right on the carpet. And
that's what I'm saying. You have carpet, so you've got the embers. Do you have little holes from?
Oh yeah,
where?
There's numerous burn holes.
See, that's not relaxing. That's stressful.
No. It is like I said. It's a feeling of being alive. Okay. Of I'm outside of, yes, I'm experiencing the creature comforts of a cool evening in a wood fire, but I also know that, this is the eternal struggle with man versus flame. And I like that. I like it. Just call me crazy.
Can I tell
Call
you?
me crazy.
Can I give you a little window into my growing up experience? I grew up in rural Nebraska, and the fireplace that my parents had in our big house until I was about 10 years old was one of those big pot-belly stoves, those big black iron rot. Like it was in the middle of it. It wasn't in the wall. It was kind of.
Do you live in a settler cabin? Like what in the world?
It was very medieval, and I didn't know that at the time. It was just what we had in our house. Now I know that this thing was probably not legal, and it was probably probably they would have, with some justification, child services would have dragged us out of there, because you want to talk about man versus fire. That thing heats up. So if you got a fire in there, young kids wrestling around, kind of horsing around on the carpet, anytime that could turn deadly at any moment. All one wrong fit, one slip into that potbelly stove. If you put your hand on that thing, you lose. The hand is done. You lose it, but incinerated, like in a nuclear bomb blast. It was that thing got so hot, and my parents were so sad that we weren't able to take it with us when we moved out to the slightly more modern area of Lincoln, Nebraska. But it was we had a fireplace there, but it wasn't like the big potbelly stove fireplace. But it was comparatively safe.
So you're telling me that, before moving into a part of Nebraska that was under the watchful eye of a fire marshal, it was just a giant red hot ball of iron in the living room.
No loss.
And I like it.
It's like Mount Doom.
You learn once.
Crazy.
Yep.
This feels like how our ancestors were raised. So, I mean, this is doable.
Hardy folks. Yeah. It came from good stock.
Hardy folks. I mean, most of them didn't make it through most winters.
And it wasn't the cold; it was the fire that erupted in their house.
It was that and dysentery. And but all that to say is, it's a great time of year. I'm feeling good. Cameron, I know you're feeling good over there.
Feeling great. It's just a good time. Hey, well, moving the show along, we have a great show in store for our listeners. It's a big week. Coming up later, we talk to Morfydd Clark, the star of, she's Galadriel in Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power. It is, the finale is this week, so she's joining us. You don't want to miss that. We also have your feedback at the end of the show. I promise no mooning talk this week. Forgive us.
Really? Okay. Well.
Is this what happens when I'm gone?
There goes my slice.
The same run of show.
15 solid minutes on mooning last week.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, don't miss that. And stay tuned. Right now, up next, Emily joins us for Relevant Buzz. You're listening to Beginners and St. Lucia. The song is Broke. Well, today's show is brought to you by The Navigators. If you've ever asked yourself, what is discipleship? Or maybe you already know what it is and have wondered, what does it look like in everyday life? You're not alone. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be complicated. There's even a new resource that can help. The Navigators have created an ebook, Discipleship 101, to help unpack the most common questions about discipleship. The Navigators is a ministry that shares the gospel of Jesus Christ while helping others grow in Him through life-to-life discipleship. And they're offering this resource as a free ebook download to all relevant podcast listeners. Remember, you're not alone, and you already have what it takes to start discipling others right where you are. Claim your free ebook offer now by going to navigators.org/relevant to download. Again, visit navigators.org/relevant to download Discipleship 101 and start discipling others today. Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Please welcome to the show our very own downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
I think you're still in Austin, right?
No, I'm in Houston now.
Is it fire season there yet? Is it cool enough for either outdoor or indoor fires there in Houston, Emily?
I'm going to go with no. I think we're finally in the 80s, so it is cooling down for Houston, but
Yeah.
I think the rest of the world would agree that it's not cooling down.
I
yet.
literally, I'm outside here and it's like in the 70s or whatever, upper 70s, and it's so lovely. Like you're not longing for air conditioning. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is our fall, and this is what the rest of the world experiences as summer.
Right.
So this is why people like summer. Oh, okay. They like being outside in summer because it feels like this.
You can tolerably be outside.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway. All right. Relevant Buzz, what do you have? What's going on this week?
I want to start off talking about a study that came out that is honestly not super surprising, but I think it is still important to talk about. Essentially, the study found that teenagers today like Jesus a lot more than they like Christians. Like I said, it's a pretty common theme, but I think it's really important to dig into why that is, and for the church to wrestle with that, because one day this is not going to be the next generation. This is going to be the generation. So we kind of need to get ahead of it while we can. But essentially, the study found that around half of teenagers surveyed like Jesus, and they think he's very loving, and they think that I think 42% said he was wise, but alternatively, they said 31% see Christians as loving and 18% see them as wise. So that's a big decrease between 18%. Yeah. So the leader of our faith, we're good with.
The problem is they listen to this podcast and they know how deeply unwise we are. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so.
What are you talking
What?
about?
We're so wise.
Yeah, but we love life.
I'm looking at some of the wisest people.
We're too busy living.
To be fair, I feel like, the wisdom thing, again, is like, honestly, for people of any faith, that's a high bar to be looked at as just wise people, right? Like, there's lots of reasons that you could be looked at as not the wisest, right? But
Collectively,
I feel like you could get a sort of moral pass on that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, look, it's hard to know the right, sometimes, how to discern complicated. We live in a complicated world, right? We should be able to get a pass on that. Or at least like, oh, it's excusable. Jesus was wise, but us followers, they're not as wise. The loving thing, I feel like there's really no excuse, right? I mean, like if we're really followers of Jesus, shouldn't that just be the default? Like, oh, I'll say this. I don't always agree with them about this or that, or their opinions on this issue, but I will say this: they're really loving people. Mm-hmm. They demonstrate these fruits of the Spirit, which starts with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. Those, it doesn't seem like there's an excuse for that. I can get why, any segment of the population could say, I don't agree with them on issues of discernment or political or social issues, but they're really, really loving. That to me is way more concerning than the wisdom one.
It is, because also, like, just to say what Jesus said is, he said that people are going to know that you're my follower by the way that you love one another. And I think that right there is what's concerning about the study as well. It's like, oh, how do you know people are followers of Jesus because they love each other so well, and yet you're saying, "Oh, we don't do that very well." That should scare us all.
I've been thinking about this a little bit because I do think that there is I think the response to this that you often hear when people bring up this stats like this is, well, Christians never claim to be perfect, but we point towards a perfect Savior, or we point towards a perfect God, and that's what we should go in, which I agree with. I think that's very true. But I think the problem with that is that Christians have oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes also kind of we've implied that part of being a Christian is sort of a moral, like you get a little bit of a moral power boost when you become a Christian, in a way that sometimes some Christians even say, like, maybe people should be listening to us on questions of morality when it comes to things like sexuality, when it comes to things like liberty, other countries, free, lots of different issues. And if we can't live up to the bar that we ourselves have set, then I think that the idea that Christians aren't perceived as being as loving as we wish we do, I think that has a lot of teeth then. Like, we've kind of set up this own bar that we are failing to clear. And if we could go back to instead just saying, like, yes, we're not perfect, but we follow a perfect Savior, that feels way more that feels like a way more achievable goal for the American church to have right now.
I'm also curious with surveys like this, where it's general population, this is what they think about Jesus. It's like, what do you know about Jesus? Like, have you ever read the story of Jesus? Like, you know what I mean? Is this just a reputation thing? Or is this like, they know what they're talking about.
Well, so that was actually a really interesting part of the study. They did dig into what do they theologically believe about Jesus. And of the ones who said that they like Jesus, there were some things that we would consider to be pretty big ones that they didn't agree on. Like only a third of them, or I think it was half of them agreed that Jesus died. Only a third of them agreed that he came back from the dead, which is obviously a very big part of our faith. And so I think that goes back to to your point, yes, we should be known for our love. I do think we should strive to also be known for our wisdom, because I think if you're just trying to read the Bible on your own, and it's not always easy. So you might miss some things. You might not understand them. You might have a lot of questions. And if you don't have people that are wise and can pour into you that you trust, then you're just going to have these false beliefs. And so I think we need to strive for love 100%. But I think we also need to, at the same time, address there is a wisdom that we can pass down and make sure that we're sharing solid, good truth with them.
I think we've also seen in the last even election cycles, people have geared toward this evangelical community. And I think we're seeing a lot of people who would say, yes, I am a Christian, but really their life doesn't represent Christ. They don't follow the teachings of Christ. They don't look anything like Jesus Christ. And so we live in this cultural Christianity type of bubble. And so you're looking at everyone and saying, hey, all these cultural Christians that you know, do you think they're wise? Do you think they're kind? Do you think they're loving? And they're like, not really. They're kind of jerks. And the question could be is it a culture of Christianity, or do they actually follow Jesus and the teachings of Christ? That's also something you have to think about as well in this country that we live in, that so many people would claim this needs to be a Christian country and we are a Christian nation, blah, 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 blah. I think it gets muddy in there with these surveys as well.
Well, the other thing too is and I think we've all seen this, but I think social media, particularly Twitter, has made a lot of people been I'm loving confronting someone about this or that is love. I'm gonna I'm gonna call them out publicly because that's what the loving thing to do is. Look, I see so many Christians try to redefine love to something to fit this confrontational kind of just like you were saying, Jamie, sort of this jerkishness where it's guys, let's not play that game. That's not what love is. Meet people where they're at. Don't bully them. Actually demonstrate a degree of compassion and kindness, and let the Holy Spirit be able to do his job, which is, that's the work of any sort of conversion, right? What's the Billy Graham thing, the old Billy Graham quote where,
don't be with women behind closed doors.
It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict. It's God's job to judge. It's my job to love. Right. I think that's part of the thing with being more loving too. It's just understanding what love should be.
All right. What else? What else we got, Emily?
In a sort of related way to this study, I want to talk about a very interesting story. You may have seen it on the internet. A youth pastor was recently placed on administrative leave because he handed out stickers to his youth students that says, "I heart hot youth pastors." Yeah, just take that for a second.
This is not okay.
I love it.
The emoticon heart, the emoji.
I heart youth pastors.
So this is a youth pastor. He's also 35. I do feel like that part is important to address, that he's in his mid 30s. Not that it makes it better at any age, but mid 30s and we're doing this?
Okay. Do we know what he looks like? Because if he is old and slovenly,
you want to know if he's hot? Is
and clearly making a joke, right? Yeah. Or if he's a hot, fit 24-year-old who's vain, that's two different.
I can tell you that every pastor is hot in their own mind. So I don't think that's particularly.
Their wives' minds too, Tyler. Their wives think they're hot too.
Yeah,
that whole hot pastors.
I say this with love.
Oh my gosh.
So, obviously, parents were incredibly concerned when their kids came home with these stickers that said, "I heart hot youth pastors."
Can you imagine?
So, oh my gosh.
And so, obviously, the parents spoke with church leaders and trying to figure out what the heck was going through this guy's mind. He wrote a post that honestly I have more questions about than answers. Basically, he was trying to.
Is he defending it?
He was trying to explain why he did it. So I guess in a way, yeah.
Okay, I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Basically, his argument was he was trying he was just trying to make a joke about the I Heart Hot Moms culture.
Is that a culture of the people are familiar with?
I'm not.
Well, it's a T-shirt that's because his sticker did replicate the I Heart Hot Moms design. So
I don't know this.
I don't know
What
this
is
culture.
this?
it's
Makes it worse.
on TikTok and stuff. A bunch of college kids and stuff wear this shirt, and then they're like into moms, or like they go around and shoot videos like flirting with middle-aged women wearing I Heart Hot Moms. It's just kind of like a
this makes it all better.
meme
I
culture
have
thing.
so many thoughts. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I am a middle-aged mom. This is really hitting me in a weird spot.
So it makes it better now. He's just trying to do his own version of harassing women. Okay, this is I get
Yeah.
it.
So now
Right,
it's
right,
okay.
right.
Now it's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not okay.
So obviously he's been placed on administrative leave. The church has said they're doing like a thorough investigation into why this happened. They released both a private email to the church and then also posted on social media with some more stuff. But they have talked with him. He understands that was not the right thing to do. So silver lining, I guess.
This feels like something that like you've got this 19-year-old interim youth pastor that's in his like freshman year of college, and it's at a church at 25, and they're like, "Hey, can you fill in?" And he's like, "This is funny."
Yeah.
This guy's middle age. What can you tell me? Does it matter? What denomination is this? Don't.
Of course, he's Baptist. What are you talking about?
I think it's Baptist. I think it is Baptist.
I know a Baptist joke when I hear one.
Yeah, which denomination has the most repressive sexual like
Baptist church,
dialogue
for sure.
and ethics so that it manifests in the weirdest ways possible all the time?
That's fun.
Yeah.
I was just hoping the
and
weirdness would be
consider-
spread out, spread it out among other denominations, please.
I literally ask in our staff meetings, why do we
do
talk about
think
the
this-
Baptists so much? And they're like, that's where all the news is, So anyway,
That's where the good stuff is.
They
Yeah.
make news. They make headlines.
It is. I will say it's like the largest I'm not defending dear Jesus. No, it is the largest denomination here in America. Don't, Jesse, I'm not defending. Don't even think that.
No, I've wasn't listening.
When has Jesse?
I went to
never
a
not
Baptist.
said
Hey,
something?
I grew up. Listen, I grew up in a heavily Baptist part of the country. I went to a Baptist high school. I understand the culture intimately, and I make these jokes with love.
I went to a fundamentalist Baptist high school as well. They saw the Southern Baptists as those liberal charismatics. You know what I'm saying? So like Bob Jones University recruited at my high school. So I mean, I'm in there, but
There was once a debate at my high school during a chapel where their egg shakers were too close to percussion, which was absolutely off limits. Egg shaker. An egg shaker was a theological.
The church at my
issue.
high school did not have drums. There was no percussion. There was an organ and a piano, and that's it. So
I think where we landed, honestly, this is where it landed. There could be an egg shaker, but the guitar player had to hold it in their hand and like shake it while they play. They couldn't just be a designated egg shaker person,
Meanwhile, youth pastors are making stickers that say "I love hot youth pastors." I mean, come on.
Well,
what are we dealing with
now
here?
I'm understanding why
My
my
heart.
high school church viewed Southern Baptists as these crazy liberals, because they're out there with their hot youth pastors like the world. Oh my
I've never heard
gosh.
anyone refer to Southern Baptists as crazy liberals.
I know.
The fundamentalists.
That
do.
is a shocking statement to me. I'm going to be thinking about that for a while.
Don't you think that youth pastors though? Like I feel like if you've done any time working in the youth group, which believe me, I have, they it seems like it gets so disconnected. Like there's just not a lot of people in a lot of these youth, not all of them, I'm sure, but a lot of these youth groups are just kind of like, here's what we're doing this week. Blah, 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 they just run through and the game is like, you're gonna drink blended shoes, and like that's the game for the week that they do, and then the sermon's gonna be about I don't know, God, something like that, and then we'll do the bit where we hand out the I Heart Hot Youth Pastors thing. Like that feels like a very normal sequence of events that nobody would have to. The 35-year-old youth pastor does not have to get the sign off from Pastor Steve up top to do any of this. Not that it would have changed anything, but
did he ask Mrs. Youth Pastor if this would be okay? Like, is he married? Does he have
That's a good
children?
question.
Like, what is
That's a
this?
good
Is
I
just
actually
like
don't know if he's married or has children. I would love to know his wife's thoughts if he is married.
I'm sure he's not married. There's no way.
oh my gosh, this poor guy.
I have to note something. I think it's just youth pastor culture where it's not always the greatest judgment. Where it's like there was a huge portion of my youth group experience growing up where it's like it was basically Fear Factor.
Yeah,
it was like we're going to start off and someone's
for
eating a live cockroach. Well, like it might as well have been an episode of Fear Factor every Wednesday night.
And while I hated those games, I think I'd rather go back to Fear Factor than have my youth pastor hand out a hot youth pastor sticker.
For sure.
And honestly, here's the problem too. These youth pastors, they're usually, like I said, 22 years old, and you're asking them to lead a 17-year-old. It's just, but this guy, this is why it's all surprising, because he is mid-30. Like you got to know better by now. So I would have given this guy a pass if you would have told me he was under 25.
I would not have.
I would not either. No pass.
I would have been like,
No
dude,
pass.
you're stupid. What were you thinking? Like, did you ask anyone? But now I'm like, wait, no.
See, to me, it's not about the age. I have to gauge his hotness and to see how ironic it is.
Right.
If he's hot,
That's problematic. If he's clearly not, then he's making himself a joke.
So if he's hot, it's bad.
If he's hot, it's just a statement of fact. You can't get you can't be put on administrative leave for that.
Emily, I'm going to need a
just speaking the
text
truth.
before we finish with this guy's picture. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
You got to think of this too. They are die cut stickers. These are high quality vinyl die cut stickers. Those are about $2 a piece at low runs.
Wow.
This dude, I mean, let's say he did 50 of them. That's $100. That is half a year's salary for a Baptist youth pastor. That is a major commitment.
That cleared by the budget.
It's a major commitment to a joke.
Imagine being the person at the sticker factory, the custom sticker factory. He's like, hey, we got a huge order. It just came in, and they're high quality. Okay, cool. Send over the design. What is it? And it's like, I think we need to notify somebody. Someone just ordered 400 stickers that say, I love hot youth pastors.
Oh my God.
Is there someone that needs to be called? Is this like a red flag, like a watch thing? Is someone needing to notify?
That's true.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine fulfilling that order, packing it up, being like, God bless whoever's on the receiving end of this?
I think the sticker person is just as capable. How could you have let this happen? They knew when they were shipping that out, there's 50-50. This is going to make its way to the news one way or the other. These stickers are going to be on the news.
For them, there's no such thing as bad news. Yeah.
Bad news.
Check clear is either way, brother.
All right, what else do you have, Emily?
The other thing I want to talk about has nothing to do with hot youth pastors. Thank God.
Thank goodness.
By the time this airs, the Rings of Power series finale will have come out, and a lot of people have been talking about it, and they've actually been pleasantly surprised with how well the show has stuck to Tolkien's story, which I think is always a really good sign. But what's interesting is Hollywood Reporter shared that apparently Netflix wanted to do Lord of the Rings on their own, but the Tolkien estate said no. And what's surprising is Netflix offered more money. And keep in mind, this is already the most expensive TV show ever created. So I have no idea what that means that Netflix shared more money or wanted to give more money.
Yeah, they paid $250 million for the rights to this, and that's not even the production cost.
Wow.
Exactly.
$250 million just for the show.
The report said tens of millions more. They didn't give an exact figure, but it was a healthy amount of change.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is insane. But the reason that the Tolkien estate said no is because Netflix wanted to make sort of like an MCU version of Lord of the Rings. And I think this is really interesting to talk about because I think it shows that a lot of media companies are looking to create their own universe of stuff. And I personally don't want that. And I think it's very interesting that all these companies are trying to do that. Like even Netflix itself, they're trying to do a Stranger Things universe. Obviously the MCU is probably the most successful one, but you have ones like Star Wars, which those have been hit or miss over the few years. DC, I won't even talk about that, but just, not great. So it's just interesting that there's these franchises that people love and people are trying to make them into universes, but I don't think we want those. So I'm curious, how do you guys feel about like the franchise universe stuff?
I think people are exhausted of it. I think that the Tolkien estate made the right move. There's just so much. There's too much content out now as it stands. Like there's more shows than I am able to watch. A lot of stuff that like looks good. I'd love to get on that someday. I just do not have the time to even watch one or two things right now. And when you add on top of that most of these franchises, like they're just not very good. Like I think Marvel's kind of the only one that's been somewhat financially successful, but even that's getting spread really thin right now and providing diminishing returns financially and critically. I think that there's just doing this, I think, is just not sustainable for the people who make these things. And it's certainly not sustainable for us, the viewers, who just, I think people are like, the glut is getting to be too much. And I don't think this is a sustainable amount of entertainment for one culture to have shoved in front of it on a regular basis. I for one just don't need. I don't want another universe. I don't want another franchise. I just want a good TV show.
I have no opinions about the universes, but I do. When I hear this story, I'm like, mad respect for the Tolkiens, because they're like, you know what? We're going to pass up millions, billions of dollars, whichever one money speaks, to say we want to protect what we want to do. So I don't know anything about universes, but I'm like, way to go, guys.
Yep. There you go.
I guess I don't really, I just think universes need to get more bold. Like, and here's what I mean. Like, I want a universe. Like, here's an example. Okay. In my mind, Die Hard and Family Matters, they're in the same universe. Okay? Yeah. They have the same character. Yes, they have the same character. Oh. But I just love it. They're totally different tones. One is a sitcom about a nerd who lives next door. One is about a New York cop trying to take down terrorists, and they're linked by just one character. Right? If you haven't seen Die Hard, go watch it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have time to explain it. That's what Wikipedia is for. Okay. But that's what, if you want to do a universe, make every branch of the universe wildly different genre-wise. That would keep me interested, because otherwise it's just like, this is a sequel that came before. So, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Just a bunch of movies with the same characters and loosely connected. It's just a lot to keep up with, and I can't do it. So just spin them off into weird sitcoms and stuff. That would be my advice.
I agree. That's a great idea.
I can't imagine Lord of the Rings as a sitcom, though.
Why not? That's his whole point. I would watch it.
Exactly. I would. You're telling me if Netflix was like, hey,
meet the golems.
Yeah.
Just the whole family of the little guys.
Or it's like, there's a half of one of the Hobbit movies that I got dragged to when those were coming out. Half of it, like the opening hour, was like trolls singing while doing dishes at a Hobbit house. Okay, do you guys remember that? It was like a half hour of the movie. I never watched that
one, but I know what you're talking about. I
slept through them all.
It might as well have been a sitcom. It might as well have been about trolls who throw dinner parties. That was half the first movie anyway. Like, I would watch a Hobbit sitcom. I mean, it's better than watching a 4-hour Hobbit movie.
Tell us how you really feel, Jesse.
All right. Well, there's a lot more where that came from. We cover the intersection of faith, culture, and life every day over at relevantmagazine.com. Make it part of your daily web browsing. That'll do it for the buzz. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Stay tuned. Up next, Morfydd Clark joins us. You're listening to Let's Eat Grandma. The song is Happy New Year. Well, today's show is also brought to you by He Gets Us, a national campaign sharing a fresh perspective on the story of Jesus. Why? Because the story of Jesus has been obscured. His name has been used to both harm and to heal, to unite and to divide. But how Jesus actually lived isn't at all convoluted. He loved radically, he suffered deeply, he always put others first, and He Gets Us is telling that story to anyone who will listen. As Christians, you know that story and you know how powerful it is. You also know it can be hard to tell it in a way that gets people's attention. This campaign has developed a platform to do just that, to share the story of Jesus on national television and on individual phone screens, and it's working. The campaign has over 315 million views on YouTube alone so far, not to mention all those on Facebook, Instagram, and, of course, broadcast networks. And it's only the start. Visit hegetsus.com to check it out. And if you want to check out the more resources and the story behind the campaign, visit hegetsuspartners.com to learn more. Well, our guest today is Morfydd Clark. She's best known for her role of Galadriel in Amazon's Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and as Maud in Saint Maud. She recently sat down with Tyler to talk all things Tolkien and the importance of living with truth and morals. Here's our conversation with Morfydd Clark.
My brother gave his life hunting the enemy. His task is now mine.
So I really wasn't sure what to expect going into my conversation with Morfydd Clark. I'd seen her in a couple of movies that I really loved. She was the lead in A24's horror movie Saint Maud, also played Dora in The Personal History of David Copperfield, both movies that I loved a lot, but obviously taking on the Rings of Power as really the lead role as Galadriel has an enormous amount of expectation placed on it, a story that obviously I really love and that is really, really beloved by a lot of other people. And I was just so impressed and even, I would say, kind of surprised by not only how much she cared about this story and about the world of Tolkien and her deep knowledge of the lore, but also her passion for the moral universe that Tolkien created, and how much she cared about the themes, not just of everybody, not just the adventure or the story, but the really deep moral themes of the Lord of the Rings that were very important to her to carry across from that to the Rings of Power, which now, having seen the full season of, I think were really, really well handled, and I really appreciated the time and effort this team put into it, and it certainly would not have been as good without Clark in the role. So I was glad to see, when I talked to her before I had seen the entire season, having now seen it, I give it a very enthusiastic, positive review, and I do chalk a lot of that up to her performance. So here is my conversation with Morfydd Clark.
Stand with me. Ours was no chance meeting. Not fate. Nor destiny. Ours was the work of something greater.
I was wondering about some of the pressure that you might have felt knowing how many people have so many just enormous expectations and preconceived ideas about what this story is going to be like and what these characters are going to be like, and how you balanced that with wanting to meet those expectations, but also wanting to do something new and creative that comes from inside, and how that all worked out for you.
I have a group of friends that I've been friends with since nursery, and for years and years we've met up once a year and watched all 3 films together, and they have extreme expectations and ideas about how this show should be, and that's kind of what it is to be part of a something that's beloved and has been kind of part of our culture for 70 years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's part and parcel of it, and as a fan myself, I'm a big horror fan and a big fantasy fan, and I think part of the things that make those genres so interesting is the discourse, and that discourse can be had in a really respectful and lovely way.
Choose not the path of fear, but that of faith.
I want to ask about a line from the pilot, and you'll have to forgive me because I thought I had written it down, and now I can't find it. But it was one of the last lines in the episode, and it's the line that Galadriel's brother says to her when she asks, "How can we tell the lightness from the darkness?" And I believe it's something like, sometimes we have to touch the darkness first to know, or that's not quite right. Could you maybe unpack a little bit of what that means? Because it feels like it's a very core part of what this show is going to be.
Yeah, I like that quote, which I am now also not going to be able to remember exactly. But to first know the light, you have to touch the darkness. And I think what I really love about that line is that I think it touches on what Tolkien talks about a lot, which is humility and knowing the limits of yourself. And I think we do learn through mistakes. You can't go through life thinking you're going to be perfect. You've got to go through life seeing when you did things wrong and taking accountability for that and moving forward in a different way. And I think that's why that's why kind of Faramir, I feel that Tolkien absolutely loved Faramir, because he knew that he should never touch the ring. He completely knew himself. So yeah, I was really excited when I kind of read that, because it seemed to embody a lot of what I see as Tolkien's, all I can think of is the word vibe, which isn't.
Commander! Wait!
No! We keep moving!
Why do you keep fighting?
There is a tempest in me.
I think that power seems, it's in the title, it's very central to this story. It's very central to all of Tolkien's stories, and sort of what you're talking about, Morfydd, which is who deserves to have it and who doesn't. What do you think this show has to say about that idea to this time that we're living in right now, to contemporary world in 2022?
What I love about Tolkien's world is that you can't have a universe, you can't have a Middle Earth that only suits the elves, you can't have a Middle Earth that only suits humans or dwarfs or hobbits, but you need a world that's gentle enough to suit the hobbits. And you don't get that through one person having absolute power. You get that again through different people learning the limits of themselves, humility, hope, and mercy. And that's something that I think will always be relevant for us to kind of remind ourselves that we need to water our hope, exercise it, and lean on each other.
Long enough, Galadriel. Put up your sword.
Without it, what am I to be?
That was Morfydd Clark. Make sure to check out the finale of Amazon's Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. It aired or debuted this weekend. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback.
No, I ain't playing. Smile on my face, link up with the fans, but still I ain't stand. On to the next city, stay on the road, gotta master the plan, yeah. Been on my way, I bust out a seam, they don't understand, yeah. Legend like Jordan, the game been in order, but still I ain't playing. Consistent, I press start to go, my flow timeless, inexhaustible. They can't keep up, it been hard to know how else feel. Ain't really took none of those. Can't complain, my lane been comfortable. Stamp my name on the brain of most of those. Who need truth in my bag with ton of flows.
You're listening to Stephen Malcolm and Social Club Misfits. The song is Ain't Playing. Okay, it's time for your feedback. Last week, we asked you for your craziest or weirdest scar story. Jamie wasn't here, but something happened in feedback where a person was talking about they had to call out from work because their excuse was they got a BB stuck in their rear end. And Jesse pointed out that the only way a BB will penetrate the skin is if it's skin on like direct contact to the skin, which means his rear end was exposed. Why would his rear end have been exposed?
Probably asking for it.
Is this where the mooning came in?
Yeah.
He's a mooner. He deserves to get hit with a BB. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So anyway, we want to know your weirdest scar story. You hit us up on Twitter at Relevant Podcast, and here are a few of our favorites.
Jason Talley says, I was 6 years old dancing to country music on a coffee table. I fell off. The corner caught my face. Country music scarred me for life. That is.
I would also like to point out that Jason Talley is the editor of this podcast. He inserted his own feedback into the feedback document.
Hey, I did. Jason, and I apologize for not recognizing. I just know you as Jason so far, but now I know it is a good story. And here's what, Jason, we're I don't know if you guys can see this right here.
Oh yeah.
On the side of my face. No, that's a corner of a coffee table at about 6 years old too. I don't know if country music was involved, but it's within the realm of plausibility.
I like this one from Connor Voigt. My cousin and I were filming a fake sword fight there are layers to this one. Filming a fake sword fight for a project at my Christian high school in Texas. Layers upon layers of bad ideas involved here. Not surprised somebody ended up with a scar. In this case, it was Connor. He said, I had a prop sword, but he brought an actual machete. My hand slipped and he cut my thumb to the bone. I still have the gruesome photos and a cool scar 13 years later.
Wow.
He shared
an actual machete.
He shares my machete to the bone on a finger story. That's good. I have the same.
If it's a really important rule of a fake sword fight is that the swords are also fake. Otherwise, it's just a real sword fight. No distinction.
My little brother, when he was a toddler, my parents bought him the full armor of God. At the Christian bookstore, and it was like his little play set, and it had a big old plastic sword. And I was a teenager, and I was mouthing off to my mom one time in the kitchen, and I tended to do. And she picked up the nearest thing she could, which was my brother's play full armor of God sword, and she hit me with it so hard it shattered. So I didn't get a scar from that. But even the prop swords and the play swords can cause some harm. So just FYI.
Yeah.
Oh, the sword of the spirit.
Listen to this brother-sister thing. Hannah said,
this is great.
She said, my brother jokingly cut me in the arm. Like he thought the knives were dull. Okay, I get it. She said, I see blood and yell at him, and he feels so bad that he slices himself twice that he has to get stitches. She said, I wish we could say we were kids, but this happened when I was 18 and 19 and he was 25 years old. They're just like cutting each other up in the kitchen.
Man of honor.
A man of honor.
A man of honor.
She said, I'm so sorry. I will slice myself twice.
Hannah's brother, I appreciate the principles that you held to in there.
What wisdom?
Cut.
Let's make this minor accident literally 3 times as worse.
Yeah.
Like the medical bills are now 3 times as much because there's 3 cuts to stitch up.
Well, there's a lot more scars. You guys are very scarred people. Go check out all the feedback at Relevant Podcast on Twitter. It's really funny. All right, it's time for this week's
editorial question of the week. Hey.
Well, a lot of our listeners grew up and went to youth group. Not all, but a lot. So we experienced some weird stuff together. You know, it's called a trauma bond. So we want to know. Somebody's been in counseling this year. We want to know what's the weirdest thing your youth pastor ever did. That's it. What's the weirdest thing your youth pastor ever did? You know, obviously we're referencing the sticker incident from earlier, but hit us up on Twitter.
I'm going to have to bring a story too, because Aaron, my husband, was a youth pastor when we were first married. And so listen, a lot of these things, talk about trauma bonds. I'm feeling them real deep. Yeah, I was there. I was there for the whole Survivor series where we made people do crazy things, all the things. Yep.
Wow.
All right. Well, there you go. Hit us up on Twitter at Relevant Podcast, and we'll read our favorites on next week's show. We might have to dedicate the entire episode to it. Just a collective healing moment that we can all have together. Well, before we wrap things up, I want to remind you to head over to relevantmagazine.com to check out the fall issue of Relevant. It's presented for free by our friends at He Gets Us. You can just click on the magazine tab and read amazing features like MIA telling us her crazy conversion story, N.T. Wright unpacking what the Bible really is, Sterling K. Brown, Regina Hall, and more from the cast of The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. There's so much in the issue, and again, it's available for free. If you sign up for Relevant Plus, you get a beautifully designed, enhanced, ad-free version, beautifully designed for tablets and desktop. You also get an ad-free version of this podcast, unlimited ad-free reading at relevantmagazine.com, and more. It's the best way to experience our content, and plans start as low as $250 a month. Check out Relevant Plus by clicking on the plus right there at relevantmagazine.com. All right. On that note, we will wrap things up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Jamie Ivey.
And I'm Tyler Huckabee.
We'll see you next time. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
And I like the thrill of the indoor fire. I like that it feels incredibly unsafe.
Relevant Podcast Network.